So we're going to pick up where we left last time. We're holding now in the middle of, is going through this Hayom Yom that the Rabbi is going through. The Seder is that there's the Chassidus Shiur, there's the Baal Shem Tov, and then there's the Vaad Talmidei HaTmimim. And what the Rabbi is going to do is explain how really the Alter Rebbe is a biur on the Baal Shem Tov and the Pardes. Well, the Fizeh, really the Alter Rebbe is saying, that our Rebbe is saying a fourth Mahalach, which is a totally different approach to the ganze Sugi. So, if I'm not mistaken, last time we just went through the Pardes and the Baal Shem Tov. We didn't even get to the Alter Rebbe. So let's just go through very bekitzer what's the Pardes and the Baal Shem, and then we'll begin to understand the pashtus of the Alter Rebbe. There's an issue. On the one hand, it says, is because that Yidden, by davening, have to know to be mechaven to the correct Shem of the Eibishter. And in Kabbalah, the taich is that there are different names for the Shem Alekim, there's Shem Shakai, Kel, Aleka, for every inyan. Specifically, every tefillah in Shemona Esrei, there's different shemas. Now, besides for having different shemas, there's also Shem Havaya could be spelled in different efanim, so there's different tzirufim, or different nikud for Shem Havaya, which also is keneged Shem Kel, Leika, v'chol. So, on the one hand, you're supposed to be mechaven b'Shem. Le'iduch state that that when you turn to the Eibishter, Kamuven, you have to thinking about the Eibishter and not about the Midas. So, how do you do both? So the way the Pardes dealt with this sugi is that it was mechalek zwischen chesed und chazdon, or chasid. It was mechalek zwischen the keli and the eir. When I'm talking b'pashtus that a person has chesed, so that is not him. He possesses midas ha-chesed. Even technically, you could take chesed and you could have it as a tchuna. You could write a story of Ave, you could write a song of Ave. It becomes like there's a musik called chesed, which I have and you have. And then there's another thing, the I love, the I which is behind it. And there's in Havana, and there's in anything. There's a svara, and then there's I getting the svara, which is the nefesh behind the tzir. What we would call in the language of Kabbalah, the way the Eiris come into the Keli. Because the Eiris are really all one. Ad kidei kach, like it says, really one Eir could come into another Keli. So the I, the Pshitas HaNefesh is one, coming into various tzir. Like the Hagdara that we say, the Pardes says, there's Chesed and there's Chosid. Chesed is not me, but Chosid is me. It's the way I am in the tzir of Chesed. So if you call me a Chosid or you call me a Chacham, both times you're referring to me. Obviously, you're referring to me in a different tzir, but it's me. You're talking to me. The Fizeh is the Pardes Miyashiv, the Chiluk. On the one hand, so don't get stuck in the midas. When you dive into the Eibishter, you have to talk to the Eibishter. That's the Eiris. Le'idach, we can't be talking about the Eibishter Ma'amish Atzmus because you have to be Mechaven B'Shem. So that means is the way the Eibishter is Mitzuyir in a certain way. In Havana, it's not just a Mamer Azal that we have to be Mechaven B'Shem. If we want to reach the Eibishter, the way it's going to be for Hashpah, for this Inyan, if we want Chesed, so I can't talk to the Eibishter with the name of Gvura. It's like the Tzemach Tzedek says, you're reaching the Melech when he's not in the storehouse. There's no, he doesn't have the money on him. So Be'emes, you're asking him for a much bigger favor to leave wherever he is. He's in the middle of dealing with a mishpat. You're talking to the sar of the mishpat, and you have to go now and change a ganze maise. So that you're not reaching the Eibishter. What we want to do is get the Eibishter the way he is in this tzir. The emes there's another kinech over here. It's not just technically that we want Kilo to find the Eibishter the way he is already in this tzir. The idea of Shem means to be mamshich. That's what Shem is. Like when I call a person's name, so he turns around. Or when I say a person's chacham, it's ma'erer his chacham. So al derech zeh is, it's not just that the name is the right address to go to a certain place. The name is the way to make the Eibishter come into this place. So the Eibishter is taka pashat. But when I say this certain name, that helps the Eibishter, that helps us to be mamshich the Eibishter into this place. And that's the idea of Hallel and all the Psukim de Zimra, bringing the Eibishter into different kelim through calling his names. Adkan is the Pardes Bekitzer. Now there's a word of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov says that the Lekus was in kelim. So the Pashtus is, the Baal Shem Tov is saying the same thing as the Pardes. The Pardes said the Eiris in the kelim, and the Baal Shem said the Lekus in kelim. But the Tzemach Tzedek proves, and this is the Mamorim that we have copies of. It's in Shesesi to Shmeiru, in the Teira Bekitzer, and it's in the Yosefus in Vayikra Mubariches, and it's in Eratera, even longer. You have in Shmeis, you have in Shalach, in Yisrael. Explains Pasha, it doesn't make sense that this is what the Baal Shem Tov is saying. Why? So let's just say one technical reason. He's more ma'arif, but one simple hasbara. Because the shittas Baal Shem Tov goes to Fishit Arizal, and the Arizal holds that the Eiris are all Shamavai, not the Zayin Shemesh and Mechakim. So maybe you can't be that you're being mechaven b'Shem in the Eiris because it's Pasha not true. Muslims are talking about Kelim. Fragt sich the Shaila, Kelim is not a love of Midesav. I'm talking to Eibush, I'm talking to Midas HaChesed. So the Tzemach Tzedek explained, we use it on the word of the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur of Kad Antistalik Minai Vishtar Kula Keguf and V'lo Nishmasan, that the Guf exists independent of the Nefesh, meaning the Spheres exist independent of the Eiris. Why? Because they have their own Sheirish. And this is the Yesod that Alter Rebbe was Megale. It's a Mechudish Tike Mahalach understanding, and it's a Yesod in Chassidus Chabad, that the Kelim come from Rishimu. Meaning to say that the Tziyur, which we have, is not just an expression of Bli Gvul, nor mitzad the Eibishter Gvul exists independent of Bli Gvul. Because the Eibishter is not more Bli Gvul than Gvul. Yeah? The Eibishter is Gvul just like he's Bli Gvul. Because the Eibishter is Bli Geder, not Bli Gvul. And Ochashkin Toras, I think we went through this last time, Bissel Mer Ba'arucha, and that's the Chiddush of Iyu V'Garmei Chad over Iyu V'Chayet, which means as a higher Sheish. So, and the Santa Vord, the Rebbe Rashab once said that the reason he opened Talmidim HaTmimim is in order to bring out that the Sheirish HaKelim is from the Rishim. In other words, well, I mean, what does that mean? That Gvul hat ha'inyan b'fnei atzmei. It says the pashtos, the way people look at Chassidus is inyan of bli Gvul. You have Gvul. So you were looking for the fire, for the bli Gvul, which is behind the Gvul. I don't mean the lulav, I mean the nefshama, I mean the Eibishter, which is behind it. Don't get stuck on the details. Come the Alter Rebbe and sagt, name. The Eibishter is not more in the bli Gvul than is in the Gvul. The Rishim, the Kelim, the Gvul doesn't come from the air. The Kelim have a inim for itself, and that's the Chayis of the Kelim Atzmam. Meaning, was seinen sie? Sie sind ein Eibishter. An Eibishter not in a Tzir of bli Gvul. Eibishter, wo ist Gvul? Und dort kannst du nehmen den Eibishter. which, in other words, in the Sprach of Talmidim HaTmimim, the musig of Seder, or the musig of structure, or Kabbalah Seil, and Seder, a Seder Nigla, and Blend Chassidus, and a Seder Masuda, these certain hours, which is all the Chura Hepech, what we would imagine is Chassidus, Zogt, the Rebbe Rashab, no. In Chabad, Chassidus is nicht Dafke Mesiras Nefesh, Faket. The real Havana of the Baal Shem Tov is the Chayas of the Kelim Atzma. Gvul Ale. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. Now comes the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe. So in Tov Kuf Nun Vav, the Alter Rebbe came down in the Motzim Kippur, and he said, the Pardes hat gesagt, Eres in Kelim. Hashem hat gesagt, Elikus in Kelim, which Masber means the Chayes of Kelim Atzma. Aber the Pashto Pshat is, Elov L'Midosav is Ta'atzmus Ale. How, through a Pashto Tefillah of a Pashto Yid, you could reach Pshitas Atzmus. And that's the real Havana of Elov L'Midosav. That's what we're looking for. Now, this Alter Rebbe obviously is very difficult. I mean, even Bapashtus, he didn't deal with the sugi. We had a kasha over here. On the one hand, you have to be mechaven b'shem. On the other hand, elov aleinu mideisav. So what did the Alter Rebbe do? He picked one. Shkayach. What happened to the mechaven b'shem? What happened to the need of being? I mean, ganz Teres HaKabbalah is moleh b'davar zeh, that you have to have kavanah of shemus, the richtige, to be mechaven properly. So the way we have to learn this Alter Rebbe, I just want to say the pashtus. I'm going to do it in two stages. It says even before we're talking about the way the Rebbe's nu mahalach of nina ninois, there's the way bepashtus, the way I think we would learn the Alter Rebbe, and there's the way the Rebbe is madgish in Tavshin Chaf Aleph, the more correct way of learning it. Then there's the Rebbe's mahalach in. So, is as it. Bepashtus, the Alter Rebbe said this thing in Tovkuf Nun Vav. But 10 years later, Tovkuf Samach Vav, there was a Mamer, Isa B'Sifri, which is a very famous Mamer, and it's found all over. L'mashal, the beginning of Derech Mitzvah, Asherish Mitzvah Tefillah is Meyusad on it. You have the Mamer in the Siddur, Shara Krishma, in the Alter Rebbe Siddur. You have it in Imre Bina, right at the beginning. You have in Mamer Morazok and Hanocha from Remesha, and there's a difference. The Middle Rebbe is Hanocha is from Sunday Parshas Lech Lecha, and Remesha is Sunday Parshas Vayera. But it's clearly the same Mamer. It's mamish the same Mamer, saying being Mevayed Desini. The Inyan of Elov L'Midosav. And the way the Alter Rebbe explains the Inyan over there, L'chure bepashtus. Again, I didn't see. I mean, in Vaad Talmidei over here, they're not being mitzvah into it. So it's anachrayis. I think bepashtus, the svara yeshara would be is that when you have a pisgum of the Alter Rebbe and Tovkuf Nun Vav and so on, and you have a ganzen mamorim being mevayed, Alter Rebbe's mahalach and Elov L'Midosav, this is a biur on that. Now, the biur of the Alter Rebbe goes like this. First, he brings Ba'arichas the Pardes and explains what's pshat, that you need to have kavana to eris in kelim, and that's the whole gather of chazdon and not chesed v'chul. Then there's no mention of the Baal Shem Tov. Then the Alter Rebbe says, "Ober v'davtacham le'lov l'midosav atzmus aleh." So the Alter Rebbe explains this two inyan, this krishma and this tefillah. Tefillah is to be mamshich into gewisse kelim. That's why there's different brachas. Every bracha has a different shem. And the whole inyan of tefillah is hamshocha, arop zu bringen into a lower place. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're being mamshich hashpois. Krishma is achtas avai. The point of Krishma is limser nafshi ve'echot. So how does it work? That a yid sits down on his mizbeinen in the Metzias of Welt, and it goes through Ba'ariches, even say the Rishtalshalos, busy understands the Madrigas HaChochme is Echet Nish the Eibishter, until he comes to the Eibishter is Be'emes Echot Mamish, which is Bli Gvul, higher than say the Rishtalshalos, that's the Atzmus Alein, and in the Tnu of B'chol Me'eitcha is breaking Allah Hagbolas, he rushes forth to the Ibergaben to the Eibishter, that's Mesiris Nefesh. And that's Krishma. So you need both. You need a love of Krishma, Etzem, and you and then you also need Arab zu bringen in Keilen, and that's Shmei Esrei. Mer Biprotius. These are not just two Avedas, but it's Haba Hatali. The way it works is that how could I be Mamshich Amshachach Hadoshet into Keilen is if I've reached the Etzem. So first you have to have Krishma. And Krishma is what we call Haloah. Zich Ibergeben, reaching the Etzem of the Eibishter. Mesirah. Einmal, ich bin dorten, so that's me'erer the Etzem, and that brings him down to become available in gewisse Tzior and Keilim v'chol. So Shmei Esrei follows Krishma. If we'll say it, a bisschen besignach, the way the Mittler Rebbe says it even sharper, he says that both in Krishma and in Shmei Esrei you have the Etzem. But in Krishma, the Etzem is that I'm reaching the Etzem. I'm leaving Tzir to go to the Etzem. In Shmei Esrei is I'm bringing the Etzem down. So that's why he's Medaik, even it says, even when you're supposed to be Mechaven B'Shem, when it says but Shmei Esrei, it says Shem Loshen Yachid. Not Shemus, because Sof says Einer. The point is, Shem Havai, it's one Shema Etzem, which I want to bring down into the Tzir. A dogma for that would be, like we were talking between it, one person relates to another person. So the Havana would be is, ich will, like we're saying, a person should come into his kelim. I want you to express your midas achesed. So if Lom Zorgen, you have a person which is Lepayel Mamish doing midas achesed, but his midas achesed is dry. In other words, he's giving money, he's supporting him. But he is not nimtzah behind his mitzvah. There's the chesed without the chazdom. He's not excited about it. He doesn't identify with it. You don't hear him talking in his mitzvah chesed. So what's the solution? So there has to be two stages. First of all, I have to be ma'erer the etzem. I have to come to you and talk to you, scream your name. And your name is your name, not calling you a chacham. I have to call you Reuven, and you're going to be nifnen located b'shmei. You'll turn around. You'll become available. Once this etzem is behis galos, then it could come down, and I'm here. I'm present. I'm not asleep. I'm alive. I'm fully here with you. So it's there. Come and connect with me through your chesed. So become a chassid. So that's the difference between Krishma and Shmei Esrei. Bring the etzem into Tzir. When this is the pashtus, again, it's pashtus, it's the same Alter Rebbe. You can't separate the things. It would be very modern to say that they love Leilim Midesav of Hayim Yim. And of the ganze, the way it is in the Siddur of Achulu is totally different than Maisa. This is a love Leilim Midesav of reaching Atzmus. Abervas. If we're careful, we'll see that there is a difference between the way it's in the Siddur and the way it's over here. Because over there it's talking about B'chol Me'eitcha. And over here it's talking about Pshitis of a Pashta Tefillah. What's the difference? The Pashtas. The Pshitis of a Pashta Tefillah is not through his bonus, which is going to bring me to a case of B'chol Me'eitcha. It's fakir. There's no his bonus. So Apostle Yid zet sich auf Hegwagen Adavne. Is L'chura, that's the reason why the Rebbe by us in our Mamer sends us to a different place. To Pasach Eliyahu, which is talking about Hamoiru Be'izgalus, like it says that by a Pashta Yid, that Tinekis and Pashta people say the name of the Eibishter, they're referring to the Eibishter himself. The Hamoiru Be'izgalus. So the way the Rebbe is learning Pshat in the Alter Rebbe is not the way I would learn the Pashtus, that Vosis Atzmus is the Aved of B'chal Na'idcha, like it says in the Mamer, nor it's referring over here to the Hamoiru Be'izgalus. Maybe just stam a pasha fits very, very simple over here. It's stam a karev la'emes. Now this is the difference between before Peterburg and after Peterburg. Before Peterburg, the full union of Chabad wasn't yet in Beis Galus. So the way in Tavkuf Nun Vav, the way the Alter Rebbe is talking about Elav and Midei, so the Alter Rebbe is saying you have to have two things. You have to have tziyur, but you also have to have etzem. And the way you have etzem is mit pshitas hanefesh. There's no way to have etzem through his bonus. There's still. It's gekommen the Chiddush von Peterburg and Tovkov Samach Vav. The Alter Rebbe explained the Elav Midei of Beifenachim that even Atzmos, how do you reach etzem hanefesh? Those gufa arbeteichen durch Seichel, durch Chabad, durch his bonus, and even Shlili of B'chal Ma'edcha, you're going to be able to reach this place of etzem. But Al Kolponim Vinit Vi, the Alter Rebbe is saying a third Mahalach that Elav is Atzmus, either through B'chal Ma'edcha or through the Pshitas HaNefesh, which is reaching Atzmus. Yeah. Adkan is the Alter Rebbe. Any comments, questions? Shalom, you talking? Yeah. Okay. This is the Pashtus, the way we would learn it always. Here comes the Chiddush of the Rebbe Bosi Legani Toshachaf Aleph, which, again, we can't even call it a Pshat. In the Alter Rebbe, it's a fourth Mahalach. If we would have to say, we're extending the Ayim we in Deir Shvi learned when up there. The Rebbe starts with a kasha. How could it be that the Alter Rebbe is Chelek al Rabbi? Yeah? Okay, we feel the Alter Rebbe in jail, he could have been free if he would have just said that Hatnish Shaykh to the Baal Shem Tov. And he didn't want to. For Rega Echad, even the Agoy should think, just to say B'dibur, it's a Chish Gewalt Abshedding from the Baal Shem Tov. To say over here that Alter Rebbe is being Chelek is a modern Zach. Nemesis, let's add, the Rebbe doesn't say this, but this Selik Dor Nochmer, by Pashtus, that the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov are doing the opposite of what you would expect. The Baal Shem Tov is talking about the Maila of Tziyur and the Maila of that the Eibishter is also in Chayis and Kelim. And the Alter Rebbe is talking about Pshitas Ha'atzmos to the Pashtayit. It's like, this is the Alter Rebbe and this is the Baal Shem Tov. It doesn't fit with the the way we would expect. Is the Rebbe Mechadish as the word of the Alter Rebbe is reaching Atzmus. And Atzmus is Nimna Nimnois, which means Chibur Havchim. And once we understand that Atzmus means Chibur Havchim, then the Alter Rebbe is not being Chelek on the Baal Shem Tov, fakert. He's being Masbir Pshat in the Baal Shem Tov and also Pshat in the Paradis. He's coming to say a new emek in them. It's not a different derech. So this obviously needs a bit more unpacking. What does it mean? This word. First of all, b'chlal nimna nimnois, and what does it mean that nimna nimnois is chibur havchim? And lefi zeh will come back to our Indian over here, the way the Rebbe is masberit in the Bosi Legani. Once we have it in the Bosi Legani, so it's going to be not just pshat in the Baal Shem Tov in the Paradis, it's going to be pshat in the words from the Magid. And also, al pi zeh, the Rebbe is going to learn a new Havana in the Indian of Shems. So there's going to be a new knech in what Shem means, lefi zeh. Okay. So, we don't have the time to Zecharein Krich and Mamish Barchove, but just the Nekudah. There was a machlekes rishonim. Is that a teva hanimna b'chei kabeir? Is that yeah? Could I say in the Eibishter that there's certain things which are not shaykh by the Eibishter? L'mashal, to say that the Eibishter is reichev and not reichev at the same time. So you can't say that the Eibishter is not reichev. You can't say that the Eibishter is reichev. Nothing is, the Eibishter is bligvul, that's obvious. The shaila is, could you say that both are happening, reichev and not reichev at the same time? So the word is shainim which held that there is a Indian of Nimna by the Eibishter. Yeah, why? We're not saying over here there's a gvul on the Eibishter. It's a ridiculous thing that you're saying. You're not making sense, Bechla. What do you mean reichev and not reichev at the same time? It's not chisaron. Now again, we're not saying over here is that the idea of gvul or bligvul. Obviously the Eibishter is bligvul. And the Eibishter is also gvul. Shem sheyesh lekeach. No problem. But to say that any words that you're going to say about the Eibishter could be correct, I mean, that's ridiculous. Du hast doch gar nicht gesagt. Why should I say that the Eibishter is Reichem and not Reichem at the same time? However, there's a Tshuvas Rashba where the Rashba says that his shit is that the Eibishter, nothing could be said about him which is richtig. Why? There's no Hagbala which is correct. Why? Because the Eibishter is not in our Asagi. So we can't make any, the Eibishter works totally different. So we're all working within our framework, the way we think what makes sense, and we're saying the Eibishter is shlemus in that. We can't have any klal. There's the term, he is nimna hanimnois. Is the Eibishter nimna? No. He's only nimna from having any nimnois. There's no nimna in the Eibishter. So the Eibishter anything could be. Now, Lefize is, we're saying over here, a chidish b'negei atzmus. When I'm reaching atzmus, it's a place where there's no klal. Nothing is correct, and nothing is incorrect. So kommt es mitzad nimna nimnois l'mashal. The alle bewusste kashes, the maskil, hat gefragt the Tzemach Tzedek, could the Eibishter create another Eibishter? Or could the Eibishter make himself ois? Or all these like funny questions where the answer to them with pashtus is no. And it's not chizan. Yeah? We're saying that the Eibishter is everything. If there's another Eibishter, so he's not everything. So then it's not Eibishter. Pashtus. Yeah? Could he make a stone that I can't pick up? No. The Eibishter is bligvul kayach. To say that there's something which the Eibishter can't do, that's not a mailer. Why should I say that? It's not mailas agvul. And then just be magdir properly. There's a musa called mailas agvul. There's a case where we're looking for edelkeit, and a case we're looking for grabkeit. The marshal, and there's a mailer, if we're looking in a svara, the edeler you're talking, or a niggin, the edeler is a better nig. A hammer, if it's the edeler hammer, it's a bad hammer. We're looking for grabkeit. We're looking for things to be thick and heavy and forceful. So there's a case where we're looking for gvul or bligvul or edelkeit, the grabkeit. Then there's things which are not anything. It's just ridiculous. Aber einmal man sagt the word nimna nimnois. So in Seder Shtashel, you can't say it. But by the etzem of the Eibishter, you can't say anything. Basically, you can't say anything which is not true because there's no klal. That's the idea of nimna nimnois. Yeah. Now, Chassidus is mechadish on this Indian of nimna nimnois a tifere in. That it's not just that the Eibishter is not mugdir in ganzen in Atzmus, nor that this thing gufe expresses itself in the Welt. Which, the way I would understand is that the Seder Ishtalshlus, and for sure Meret Elam Hazen, is not like that. But the Eibishter allein is. Only Atzmus. But once we're saying there's no Gdarim on Atzmus, and Nimna Nimnois means there's no Klolim Mamish, there's also no Klolim that has to be in the Mokim of Atzmus. Memele, wo wird der Eibischter können ausdrücken, this Pella of Nimna Nimnois, überall. There's no place that not. Or Memele, Elam Haze could also be a keli for this Indian of Nimna Nimnois. Mitzad the Indian of Nimna Nimnois Guf. So we understand this is an extra dre. This is the word of Bechonish Kentos. This is what Chassidus is saying in Nimna Nimnois. Now, Lefize, Kiyodua, the Rebbe by Fabrengens would bring this Indian very, very often. Lefierich. I mean, in Amalek Chassidus, it doesn't exist. There's one place in Sefer Chikira, the Tzorach Tzedek, there's a Mamer in Ayin Ches, which the Rebbe printed in Tafshin Yud Zayin, and Chazed the whole Mamer. It's in Melukot also. It's a Mamer Ravim Yud Zayin. It's Pashat a copy-paste of the Mamer in Ayin Ches, which was printed because the Rebbe gave it out with the Haaretz, and the Rebbe said it with the New Dibra Mas. But over there, it has the word of Nimna Nimnois. Maybe there's one or two other places. It's for sure not a classic, the regular language in Chassidus. But in the Rebbe's Torah, the Rebbe made this into Mamisha Even Pina. Literally, tens and tens of siches are used on this word, Pashat Biurim in Aveide, Biurim in Achas Hashem, v'chol. So first of all, like everyone knows the classic, and this is Taka what it says in Chassidus originally, and this is in Ein Ches, v'chol, as Makam Aron Einim in Amidah. If you would measure in the Kedush HaKadoshim, if you Bepashtos, the Aron is 2.5 amas wide, and the Kedush HaKadoshim is 10, so there should be left over in between the two sides 7.5 amas. Split it into each side. It should be 3 3/4 amas on each side. The Metzias is if you would measure on one side of the Aron, it would be 5 amas, on the other side, it would also be 5 amas. How did that happen? Because the Mokim Aron, Einim in Amida, it doesn't take up any space. So on the one hand, the din is that if an Aron is too small, it's not 2.5 amas wide, it does nicht Aron. Yeah? Le'idach, it doesn't take up any space. I think it says it Benegeh actually the depth, not the width. So it's 1.5 amas, the depth of the Aron, not the width. But Akopanim, it doesn't take, it has to be in space, or Le'idach it doesn't take up space. So that's saying nicht not as Atzmus is Nimna Nimnois. No, there's an art in Gashmis in Elam Hazeh, which is an expression in Elam Noise, which is already Kilo Nemer, a Tifere in Nimna Nimnois Guf. And Lefize, I mean, hundreds of different Biurim, Pashat in Aveide, how is it that a Yid became monen von einem zwei verkehrte Tnuas is because he's connected to Atzmus, say, Sai Simcha and Sai Kabbalah Sel, or why is it that a Yid could be Sai in a Guf and in a even of a Halachta, in a Halicha Blikvul, because the Guf is a Keli for Atzmus, which in Nimna Noise, and why Taryag Mitzvahs could be Merumas in the Guf, that everyone spoke about Teire. The word from the Friedrich Rebbe as Kometz Aleph A is Anechi. When a king sagt Kometz Aleph A is Anechi. So the Rebbe said, as Anechi is a Larankin and a Kometz Aleph A, that's mitzad Nimna Nimnois, because Teire is Atzmus. Va'arbe kayetzveze, many biurim, that the Rebbe was always, went back to this nukud. Yeah. Let's come back to our sugi. So let's start with the union of Hashem. In the beginning of the third Mamer in the Bosi Legani Tafshin Chafalef, that the Rebbe said Motzei Shabbos, the Rebbe brings from the Tzemach Tzedek a new knech. And what's Pshat Shem? Till now we were saying Shem is like Eir, to be Mamshich the Etzem. Lefize fragt sich aber Ashai. Pashat, a technical question. Every time a name is Mamshich the Etzem, is the Taiche is that it's in order for the Etzem to come to be Mislabish Ba'aguf. Yeah, that's why we always say that for a father to be able to get the right name, he has to have Ruach HaKedesh, because it has to be the right kilo name or code to connect this nefesh to bring out the nefesh to Mislabish Ba'aguf. Like Nifna lekerev b'shmei. That's the idea of a name. So, da we fragen a klotzkash. It's a mamish it's an issue. You have a person who dies, and he's mislabish in a new guf, and he has a new name. Why does he have a new name? If the idea of Hashem is to be mamshich the etzem, and every neshama has his name, or every nivra, not just a person, every nivra, the dvar havaya shabei is his shulchan, is the name shmesh yikra lev lashon hakedesh, is him. So how could he get a new name? It's the neshama. Obviously, the name is on the neshama, not on the guf. So the Rebbe mevayer that you're wrong. A name is not how to call out the etzem. A name is to be mechaber the etzem with the guf, the neshama with the guf. The concept of name is chibur, connection. So shulchan is not the asius of the dvar havaya. Shulchan is the asius of the way the dvar havaya could connect to table. And the name Reuven is how this nefesh is mislabish in this guf. If this nefesh is mislabish in a new guf, so it has a new code, has a new name. Because the name is the idea of chibur. Where do we get such an union of chibur havchi? Zok the Rebbe, this is an expression of etzem. It's coming from Ninanim noise. So the concept of a name, of being mechaber, Sai in the Paradis, which is being mechaber Eires Kelim, and Sai in the Baal Shem Tov of bringing out the Chayis in Kelim. And any case, whenever I say a chibur of one thing with another, which is the idea of a name, it has to be, it's coming mitzad kecha atzmus, which is nimna nimno, is chibur havchi. Kumtais. Now the Alter Rebbe is giving us a emek pshat in the Baal Shem Tov and the Paradis. Parts of the Baal Shem Tov said this is the Eiros or the Chayis and the Kelim, which is all coming to say what's the Eilav Leilam Ideisav. Zok the Alter Rebbe, if you look properly at what's happening over here is Kecha Atzmos is what's really behind this whole thing. That's what's orchestrating the kesher between the Eir and the Kli, or the Chayis and the Kli. Because only that could make such a chibur. That's the word of Nimna Nimnois. Is the Alter Rebbe's Eilav Leilam Ideisav, Kecha Atzmos, is the Emek HaPshat and Baal Shem Tov in the Paradis. Lefi zeh, the Rebbe learns be'efen mechudesh pshat in the Magid. And again, it's not pshat in the Magid. It's like the Rebbe's pshat in the Magid. It becomes a new Torah. This is Torah's Deira Shvi of the Magid. The Magid says that Bichlal you can't say Shema Etzem, Shema Mefurish, besides for the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur. Why? What's the Maila of the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Because he's ba'afshata from Gashmias and it's his Gabrus Aruchnis, which means in simple words that the Kohen Gadol has been preparing for 7 days. He was Parash Me'ishtei and he's fasting, and the neshama of the Kohen Gadol, however, is an eifon of Ruchnis, he's Ba'aliyah, and Mamela, he's so not mugdir in Gashmis, even though technically he's here, he's really ba'afshata from Gashmis. Mamela, he could say Shem Havai. Shem Havai kichsove. He could read the Yud Kei Vav Kei, say the Eibish's name Mamish, which we never say. The Rebbe takes this Magid and learns a punkt of fakerte pshat and puts it into the words of the Magid. The uftu of the Kohen Gadol is not that he's ba'afshata from Gashmis. The uftu of the Kohen Gadol is that he's say in Gashmis and say not in Gashmis. V'haraya, technically we see as the Kohen Gadol he's standing in a certain day in the year. Yom Kippur is one of the Shin Samachei Yemei Zashana. B'shas he's going in, he's still married. He wasn't Parash Me'ishtei Legamre. Taka Shiva Yomim, he was taken away, but he's still married. He's davening by the par for his family. So he is connected to Gashmis. Zetman though, as on the one hand, the Kohen Gadol is ba'afshata from Gashmis, Aber Afshat von Gashmis means, why being in Gashmis? Being in the world and not being mugbal to the world. That is the pella of the King God. In other words, the chibur hafchim of sai al derech mokim aron enim en amida. Having a goof, being mugbal, and at the same time having bligvul. That comes from noise chibur hafchim. And that's the same word as what the Alter Rebbe is saying. This is the real love of Lelimides. So this is a new pshat in the Magid. It's a ganz anaya teir. Yeah. Not just that. It's the opposite of the pashtus of what the Magid was saying. So let's just be Mesakim over here. The Klolos Einyan. We began that the Pardes is a love of Lelimides, so Mezuch the Eibishter. So in a person, that means you're looking for the chazdon, the eye which is behind the tzir. The Baal Shem Tov says, no, we're not looking for the bligvul which is behind the tzir. Fakert, we're looking for the tzir itself. That's the real etzem ha'adam, is dafke there. The keich ha'gvul shabei is mushrish in the rishimu, which it nennt sich von atzmus nicht weniger von bligvul. Like there's the lashon of Yikach Kerech Yudalet, that bligvul and gvul are brothers, they're equals. One is not higher than the other. Noch kommt the word of the Alter Rebbe, which is a love leilimides of the atzmus. So Yitak is supposed to have the union of tziyur, whether it's Eiris and Kelim or Chayis and Kelim, for that's the Hamshocha afterwards in Shemini Esrei. The real a love is to reach atzmus, and that's Limsin Rav Shebechot. Over here in the Ayim Yem, the nature of the Alter Rebbe is a bit different. But the love is not B'chol Me'eitcha through his bonanus, not the Pshitas atzmus. And the way we tie Shtabdas L'chura, this is Far Peterburg. This is the Teir over. And the way the Rebbe is minded it, it's the word of Amoyro Beis Gals. Neman Atzmus. Then there's the Rebbe's Ma'alech as the word of the Alter Rebbe is Neman Atzmus, and Atzmus is Nimna Nimnois, Chibur Hofchim. And that's the Emek Apshat in Shemus, not just Nifna L'Kerev B'Shmei, but Chibur Hofchim, the idea of connecting one with the other, which is Chibur HaNefesh HaMaguf, which is going to be Pshat in the Chibur of the Eiris and the Kelim and the Pardes and the Chayis and the Kelim of the Baal Shem Tov, and that's also going to be Pshat in the Magid and the Mechudesh de Keifen. We're not looking for Bligvul Fakert, we're looking for Bligvul Ingvul. So what's the, let's just mamish in one word, what's the difference between this Vart and the Vart of the Baal Shem Tov, the Milo Gvul? The Baal Shem Tov, the way we understand it is, as the Eibishter is lavdafke bligvul, the Eibishter genechet sein gvul. He's not mugdir in either. Yeah? So, bepashtus, when a Yid comes and does a mitzvah, and he learns Torah, with a kviya sittim, and he's not excited now, the Mesiras Nefesh of Emunah, he's not on fire, it's also the Eibishter. Fakir, the Pashat Tehillim from a Pashat Yid, this is also, the Eibishter is lavdafke in bligvul, the Eibishter could also be bligvul. There's two truths, and they are equal. But even after that, where we begin to respect Seder and structure and Gvul, we still are not going to say that Gvul and Bligvul are the same thing. You have to choose. Amol, you have to have Shabbos is Aveda from Hecher, and Yom Ezacher is Aveda from Gvul. Krishma is Aveda of Limsin Av Shebechot, and Shemini Esrei is Aveda of Gvul. You need to have both. Kommt der Rebbe und sagt, nein. You could have not just Bligvul and Gvul are equals. You could have Bligvul in Gvul. You could have one matzav hanefesh. On the one hand, I am in a matzav of Gvul. Or le'idach, there's a Bligvul of the nefesh being nizgal over here. In Aveda, that would mean as, on the one hand, the way the Rebbe spoke about it a lot of times is a person is in Golus and he's working within the Hagbolos of Golus and he's planning. Or le'idach, it's all with a fire as a Gula kommt. Aber bepashtos ebazei, then if there's such a Amunah Mashiach, so that should be on the cheshbon of the Pratim. You know, Amunah Mashiach, save it for Achan Shal Pesach, Mashiach, so then you could be Bligvul. It doesn't work in a day-to-day. Zok the Rebbe name. Nimna nimnois memont von a Yid to have two opposites b'makom echad. And the fact that it doesn't make sense is obvious. So what? We're talking about Keach Atzmus, richtig. It's not supposed to make sense. It's just Apicheshben is Mucher Chazayit have the Keach to do two opposites at the same time. And many in Yonim, in Aveda Sayin, Aveda Matzman, Aveda Mazulas, and Sayin in Chveitz, many different Biurin, that's the Aveda, that's the Matentera, the Yenim Yerim, the Tachtenim, the Chibur Hofchim, all these in Yonim, in the Rebbe's Sprach, is Bekeach Nimna Nimnois, not just that Gvul is Etzem, no Bli Gvul and Gvul together, that's the real answer.